The tension in the room was thick, and I stood still, my heart racing as I heard heavy footsteps behind me. I didn't turn around. Suddenly, a stick hit the back of my head, and I fell hard onto the cold floor. My mind was spinning as I realized what had happened. The man I once loved had hit me, and everything I believed about our life together broke apart in that moment. Hello, my name is Marissa, and this is the story of how everything fell apart. Before all of this, my life seemed normal. I was married to Luke, a man who, at first, made me feel loved and cared for. But things started to change not long after we were married. Luke became more controlling, always trying to claim what was mine. What my wife buys also belongs to me. If you can't accept that, then maybe we should get a divorce, he would say, as if everything I owned was somehow his by default. It started with small things. He'd give away gifts I bought for my parents to his family, as if they were his to give. I confronted him once, but he brushed me off, saying I was overreacting. Before I married Luke, my grandparents had given me a special gift, a piece of real estate. It was more than just property, it was a source of security. I was incredibly grateful for it, and when I shared my plans to use the income from it to help build a future for Luke and me, my grandparents grew concerned. Keep it a secret, they advised, even from your husband. Financial independence is important, no matter how much you love someone. At the time, I thought their advice was overly cautious, but I followed it nonetheless. My grandparents had always been wise, and they were right. That piece of real estate provided me with a steady passive income, something I would eventually come to depend on as Luke's behavior became more erratic. My grandfather passed away soon after the gift was given, and I held onto his advice tightly as my life with Luke slowly unraveled. The turning point came when I noticed a significant withdrawal from our joint account. I managed most of our finances since Luke often struggled to contribute consistently. But when I saw that $10,000 had been taken out, I felt a deep sense of dread. That evening, I confronted Luke. Did you take $10,000 out of our account? Luke didn't even flinch. Yeah, I lent it to my mom. She needed help. You didn't think to mention that to me, I asked, my frustration building. Luke shrugged as if it was no big deal. It's my money too. We have savings, and my mom needed help. What's the issue? The issue is that you didn't tell me. We're supposed to be managing this account together. If it was from your personal account, maybe that would be different, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I couldn't believe how dismissive he was being. Luke frowned, his eyes narrowing. Fine, next time I'll tell you. Is that what you want? His tone was condescending, and it made me feel small. He turned and walked away, leaving me alone with my thoughts. This wasn't the man I had married. The Luke I had fallen in love with had valued my opinions, listened to me, and treated me with respect. But that man seemed to be gone, replaced by someone who saw me as little more than an extension of himself. A few days later, I had to drop off a package at my in-laws' house. It had been mistakenly delivered to our home, and I figured I might as well return it. When I arrived, my mother-in-law, Karen, greeted me warmly. Thank you for bringing this, Marissa, she said, smiling. Why don't you come in for tea? I hesitated but didn't want to be rude, so I accepted her invitation. As I sat in their living room, I couldn't help but notice the array of luxury items scattered around. There were expensive cosmetics, designer clothes, and health products displayed as if they were prizes. My son bought these for me, Karen said proudly, her eyes gleaming. It was clear where the $10,000 had gone. I felt a knot form in my stomach. Luke had given away our money without even consulting me, and his mother had spent it on luxury goods. The anger I had been holding in was now bubbling dangerously close to the surface, but I kept my expression neutral. Is something bothering you, Marissa? Karen asked, her smile fading slightly. I shook my head, but she wasn't convinced. I heard you've been giving Luke a hard time about helping me, she said, her voice taking on a sharper tone. He's only trying to take care of his family, you know. It was clear that Luke had painted himself as the victim, and now I was the villain in his family's eyes. The thought of divorce, which had been lingering in the back of my mind, was starting to feel like the only option. If I left Luke, I could move back to my parents' home in Greenville and start over. My parents' house was old, a two-story building that had once been the perfect family home. But as my parents grew older, it had become too big for them. I had been thinking for a while that they needed a smaller one-story home that would be easier for them to manage. I decided to call my parents and tell them what had been going on with Luke. They weren't surprised when I mentioned the possibility of divorce. "We've seen the signs," my mom said gently. "If you want to rebuild your life and help us with the house, we support you." Their words lifted a weight off my shoulders. I told them I would start planning the construction of a new home for them, using the income from the real estate my grandparents had left me. I promised to take care of everything. But when Luke found out, everything fell apart. Luke's face twisted with fury when I told him about my plans. "How dare you use our savings to build a house without telling me?" he yelled, slamming his fist onto the table with such force that the sound echoed through the room. His sudden anger caught me off guard, but I knew I had to stand my ground. "I didn't use our savings," I replied, my voice trembling but firm. "I used my passive income from the real estate my grandparents gave me. Not a single penny of our joint account was touched." Luke's face turned beet red, and his hands balled into fists. "You've been hiding money from me all this time," he bellowed. His voice was shaking with a mixture of anger and disbelief. "I wasn't hiding it," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "I was protecting it. I told you, my grandparents gave me that property before we were married, and I've been saving the income from it ever since." "You think that makes it okay?" he shouted, his voice growing louder with each word. "You're my wife, Marissa. What's yours is mine, and I'm the head of this family. I should have a say in how we use that money." At that moment, I realized just how deep Luke's sense of entitlement ran. He truly believed that he had a right to everything I owned, regardless of the fact that it was given to me long before he was even in the picture. And that sense of entitlement was turning into something much darker. "I'm the one who built this life for us," I shot back, my frustration finally boiling over. "I'm the one who's been supporting us with the money from my grandparents, while you've been taking advantage of it. I won't let you control me anymore." His face twisted with rage, and in an instant he picked up the stick that had been lying next to the table. Before I could react, he swung it at me, the wood connecting with the side of my head. The pain was immediate and blinding, and I crumpled to the floor, clutching my head as blood trickled through my fingers. "You don't get to decide what happens in this marriage," he screamed, standing over me. "I'm the one in charge here." Through the haze of pain, I knew I had to get out. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was about survival. I managed to push myself up from the floor, my legs shaking beneath me. "I'm done, Luke," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I'm done with you." His face contorted with fury, but I didn't stay to see what he would do next. I stumbled out of the house, my head throbbing and my vision still blurry from the blow. I made my way to my car and drove to a nearby hotel, where I spent the night trying to process everything that had happened. The next morning, I returned to the house to pack my belongings. Luke was waiting for me, a strange smile on his face. He held out a set of divorce papers, already filled out. "You think you can just walk away from me?" he sneered. "You'll come crawling back, Marissa. You can't live without me." I ignored him, focused on packing my things. "I've already filed for divorce," I said quietly, not looking at him, "and I'm not coming back." Luke's smile faltered, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of fear in his eyes. You already filed," he stammered, the confidence in his voice slipping. "Yes," I said firmly. "I'm done." Without another word, I gathered my things and left, heading straight to my parents' house. When I arrived, they welcomed me with open arms, and for the first time in months, I felt a sense of peace. In the days that followed, Luke bombarded me with calls and messages, begging me to come back. He claimed that he had made a mistake, that he loved me and wanted to make things right, but I knew better. His love had always been conditional, tied to his need for control and power over me. I blocked his number, determined to move on with my life. Meanwhile, the construction of my parents' new house was completed, and we moved in comfortably. The passive income from the real estate my grandparents had left me allowed us to live comfortably, free from the burden of Luke's manipulation. One day, a mutual friend contacted me and mentioned that Luke had quit his job, bragging to his colleagues that he didn't need to work anymore because he had access to my real estate. But when he tried to return to work the next day, his bosses had already replaced him. It seemed that Luke's lies had finally caught up with him. Hearing about Luke's downfall filled me with a sense of closure. He had tried to control and manipulate me, but in the end, his greed had cost him everything. And as for me, I was free to live my life on my own terms, without the weight of his constant demands and expectations. I was thriving. I had a new home, a job I loved, and the support of my family. The passive income that Luke had tried so desperately to control was now helping me build the future I had always wanted. The scars from my time with Luke would take time to heal, but I knew I was on the right path. For the first time in a long while, I felt hopeful about what the future held. As the days passed, I found myself settling into my new life with a sense of peace I hadn't known in years. Living with my parents in the newly built house was more than just a fresh start. It was a chance to rebuild, to regain control of my life on my terms. The house was perfect, a cozy one-story home, carefully designed with my parents' needs in mind. It was everything I had hoped it would be. The layout was practical, and every detail had been thoughtfully planned to ensure my parents' comfort. Watching them move around the new space without the struggles they had faced in the old two-story house filled me with a quiet sense of accomplishment. One morning, as I sipped my coffee on the front porch, my phone buzzed with a message from a mutual friend of Luke's. Despite everything, I hadn't completely severed ties with everyone from my old life. The friend, Emily, told me she had recently run into Luke. "You won't believe what's happened," she said, her voice tinged with a mix of disbelief and amusement. "Luke has hit rock bottom." She went on to explain that after his failed attempt to return to his job, Luke had been struggling to find work. His reputation was in tatters after word had spread about his lies concerning my passive income and his supposed ownership of the real estate. He had been living with his parents ever since, and their relationship had become strained as well. Luke's once proud demeanor had crumbled, and he was now a shadow of the man he once presented himself to be. "I guess he thought he could live off your money forever," Emily continued, her tone softening. "But without you, he doesn't know what to do with himself." I listened, feeling an odd mix of emotions. There was no joy in hearing about Luke's downfall, but there was also no sadness. Instead, I felt a sense of liberation, a validation of the choice I had made to leave him and build my own life. Luke had always seen me as a means to an end, and without me, his world had come crashing down. After the call, I reflected on everything that had happened. I had once thought that Luke and I would share a future together, but that future had been built on a foundation of lies and control. Now, I had the chance to create a future of my own, one rooted in independence and self-respect. My days were filled with new purpose. I had found a job that I loved, one that allowed me to use the skills I had always been passionate about. My passive income from the real estate continued to support me and my parents, giving us the financial stability that Luke had tried to exploit. Occasionally, I would think back to my grandparents' advice. They had seen something in Luke that I hadn't, a selfishness, a greed that would one day rear its ugly head. Their wisdom had saved me from a life of dependence on someone who didn't truly care for me. Now, I was free to honor their legacy by using the gift they had given me to build the life I had always wanted. As the weeks turned into months, I slowly but surely healed from the emotional and physical scars Luke had left behind. The sense of betrayal and hurt began to fade, replaced by a renewed sense of strength. I no longer felt like a victim of Luke's manipulation. Instead, I felt empowered by the fact that I had taken control of my life and left behind a toxic relationship that no longer served me. One day, as I was organizing some old boxes, I came across a framed photograph of my grandparents. Looking at their smiling faces, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. They had given me more than just financial support. They had given me the tools to protect myself from people like Luke. I owed them everything. Standing there, holding the photograph, I made a silent promise to myself and to them. I would never again let someone take advantage of me. I would live my life with purpose, independence, and the strength they had always believed I possessed. The next chapter of my life was just beginning, and for the first time in a long time, I was excited about the future. I had learned that true strength comes not from wealth or power, but from the ability to stand up for yourself and walk away when something no longer serves you. As I placed the photograph on the mantel, I smiled, knowing that I was finally free, free from Luke, free from manipulation, and free to live the life I had always deserved. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please give it a like and share it with your friends. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to leave a comment below. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe for more stories like this one. I'll see you in the next video.